So very much welcome to our Communities for Future sessions. This is our fourth session in our series of monthly online webinars. And as you know, the topic of the day is knowledge commons. So our headline is Building Our Knowledge Commons, working together to create a shared resource. And before diving into this theme, I want to share a couple of details about what is expecting you today. So first, I will tell briefly about Ecolis and Communities for Future, even though I think most of you already know a lot about it. But just to remind and share that to the people who are not so familiar with this, with who is behind this session. And then we want to know a bit more about you, about all the participants who are here today. And then we will soon go to the actual theme. So we will get a nice introduction to knowledge commons and the knowledge base that Ecolis and Communities for Future is creating. And the second half of this session will be discussions. So it's about half of taking in information and hearing, and the second half is about getting the chance to speak and participate. But I do encourage you to use the chat. That is a way for you to be active during the whole session. So please connect with each other. You could even now start presenting yourself there. Is perhaps a good idea to share who you are a bit, if you represent an organization and what made you come here. So we can start networking and getting to know each other there. And this recording will be shared with a wider network in our channel. So also the people who were not here today can join and get to know what we discussed. So a couple words about Ecolis. So this session is provided by Ecolis to you. And Ecolis is the European network for community-led initiatives on climate change and sustainability. We are a network organization that has 42 members in 17 European countries. And what we want to be is a platform for learning and action and advocacy for community-based initiatives, which are, for example, permaculture initiatives, eco-villages, transition initiatives, and many other types of community-led groups that work for climate change, action, and sustainability. And we have launched a Europe-wide program called Communities for Future, which aims for the widespread mainstreaming of this sort of community-led action. So really, we're wanting to inspire and support more communities to take action for a better and fairer future. And I was thinking of sharing a video with you, as this is a very fresh video that we have produced. And it's in a very nice way showing the power that communities have and their importance in the big shift that our societies need to make. But unfortunately, the quality is quite bad to share it through the webinar on the screen here. So I just encourage you to go and watch this video. It's really inspiring and nice. And Juan will be putting the link on the chat for you. So next, I would really want to hear about you. And also, so Juan will be very soon launching a poll where it helps us to get an overview on what kind of people we have here today, what kind of backgrounds you come from, and what is your connections with community-led movements. And I stop sharing here, but before we step into that, I want to share with you that there's a team behind this session. So a couple words from the people who have been preparing this for you. So myself, my name is Pauliina, and I'm working for Ecolis as a network officer. I'm from Finland, and I work hand in hand with Juan del Rio, who you can also see there with the orange screen. And we have, as co-hosts, we have Tom Hemfrey and Nara Petrovic today, and they are knowledge commons experts. So maybe you can just wave your hands a bit or open your mics and say a bit something so everyone knows who we are.
It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And there are many other people that are going to collaborate into this session too, into the whole process. So it's great to have you here with us.
Yeah, so there's many other people present too who will be hosting the breakout rooms with you. And of course, there's many other people behind Communities for Future and all this who are making it possible for us to be here today. And it's great to have the diversity that you represent. So let's have a bit of a look to that. So Juan, you can launch the poll.
So let's go. Also, some of you have been already sharing on the chat. So if you haven't done it, your organization, why are you here, etc. So please do it and read what the others have been sharing. So let's go with that. I just want to remind you that this is a multiple answer poll, so you can reply several ones. Can you see it?
Yes.
So we have, if we look at the participants' backgrounds, we have quite a lot of researchers, not many students, a lot of practitioners, quite a lot of people that is very curious, and other, well, it's very wide, but we see that it's very, very diverse. So we have a group here with a lot of different backgrounds. And we go to the second question. Are you involved in community-led initiatives? Which kind? And of course, it can be many of those at the same time. So we have people from permaculture, a lot of people from transition, many people from eco-village too, social and solidarity economy, the growth, social justice, and many others. So again, quite diverse with mostly people from transition, eco-villages, and social and solidarity. So I think this is a quick way. This is a session with a lot of content. So this is a quick way to have an overview. We will not have much time to stop here because we really want to devote as much time as we want to explore what Knowledge Commons is. But I don't know if Paulina or anyone just wants to make a quick reflection on what you are seeing on these questions. Before we go to the next part. Feel free to open your mic quickly if you want to share something, and if not, we'll just move.
Well, Abdul was saying in the chat that it's great to see so much diversity.
Yes.
That's for sure. And I would also encourage again to people who maybe arrived a bit later or didn't do it yet, you can present yourself a bit better in the chat. So there's some people who have shared a bit about the organizations or movements that they present and where they come from. And we can see that we have many European countries present. It also means that we have a lot of language diversity here. So please don't be shy to ask for support in the chat also if there is anything that is about the session, about the language, about the speed, or any sort of support that you might need. So use the chat for that.
So then I close the poll, isn't it?
Yeah, we can close.
We're really on time today. I don't know what is going on. That's great. So close here.
Nice. Well, then this would be the part where we really step into the topic. So we're here to explore knowledge and knowledge commons. And as I said, we have two wonderful knowledge experts here who I will pass the voice to. So Tom and Nara, you can take over from here and present yourselves a bit and introduce us to the depths of this topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paulina, and thank you, Juan. And my role in Echolesa is as research coordinator, and along with Nara, Andre, and others, we take responsibility for looking after what's become known as the Learn domain in Echolesa, the place which really looks at the role of knowledge in the whole Communities for Future programme. Several of us come from research backgrounds. Gilles has also been an important contributor to this and still is. Anna Margarida is very involved, and we're in a big guiding question behind this. When Echolese was first founded, one of the principles that emerged from the discussions was the importance of knowledge, the importance of working well with information and knowledge. And in the original iteration of Echolese, there was one of the 3 pillars was knowledge and learning. That's turned into the learn domain. And I'm just going to start a screen share now, which share a presentation which gives an overview of the thinking, the conceptual thinking behind the knowledge commons. And like a lot of what happens in Echolese and in my own work, it's very influenced by permaculture. And I saw a few people flag permaculture as one of your fields of action. And you may well recognize this very common simple design sequence in permaculture of survey, analyze, design and implement. So that's going to use that as a map to explain the thinking behind the design of the knowledge commons. So really the key drivers for recognition of the importance of learning in community action. It's there's no claim that we already know what needs to be done. There's a recognition that we need to be posing the questions constantly and through action learning, trying things out, looking at what happens, then reflecting on that and changing what we do accordingly in these cycles of learning. And that's really prominent in the ways that all the movements and networks that were important in the foundation of Echolese work. So key examples in the eco-village movement, many eco-villages, their experimentation, learning, education centres about sustainability in practice. Permaculture really embeds these action learning methodologies in everything that it does, and that's the heart of permaculture action. Transition took that on in terms of operating as learning processes within communities and at network level as a learning, as a set of learning processes. And there are a whole lot of things already happening in ways that member movements and networks of Echolese were already involved in learning and research. And when Echolese includes specialised members like FCID, and other research institutes who were keen to collaborate closely with community initiatives and networks. I seem to have got stuck there, so I'm going to go up and back. So when we started to look at this in detail, we found that there was often a culture clash between the ways that communities and community networks were relating to learning and the ways it was approached in the dominant institutions. And we came to a conclusion that that's really reflects the cultural backgrounds in that a lot of the ways that universities and other organisations are pressured institutionally in the way that those pressures translate into the professional demands on academics and researchers, reflect the emphasis on individualism, on competitiveness, and often clash with these key values around sharing and cooperation. And we've really looked in how we approach things in Echolese or through communities for future to align the way we do things with the ethics, the values of community action, and really orient them to practical value, not just improving practice, supporting policy advocacy, and all the other aspects of what Echolese and other participating networks do. Again, my presentation isn't wanting to cooperate with me. It's worked well when I tried it out. Well, these this type of thinking led to a set of design criteria for the framework, the infrastructure, and the processes that we use for working with knowledge, and making it open source so that information can always be shared, adapted, be used wherever it's useful. It can bring in different types of knowledge and ways of knowing, and to be adaptable to all different sorts of contexts of application, including through practice. And again, for the permaculturists, as you might recognize these three of the Holmgren principles in permaculture about looking at the bigger picture and then moving in to see how within that picture we work in detail in specific areas to bring together different ways of doing things, to connect different fields of knowledge and different ways of knowing. And this capture and store energy about harvesting from the learning processes and the learning activities that are happening in our networks, making the most of formal research that's happening around community initiatives. So in terms of the design, this led us to establish a set of tools and a social infrastructure that I'm going to pass over to Nara to explain a bit more about the tools and the working processes that we've set up, and we're inviting you here today to explore and to step into sharing it and supporting us to design further. So over to you, Nara.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to see all of you here today. It's for me an exciting topic, co-creating knowledge and making it work for the benefit of all of us. So Tom has given us this broad overview, and I'm going to go to a more, let's say, technical or concrete way of looking at it. And I'm going to share my screen as well. And here it is. So who doesn't recognize this? I guess you all understand which website I'm on. It's the Wikipedia, and that's it celebrated 20 years recently. It's probably the most well-known knowledge commons on the planet. So it's very broad, and there are many other examples of such knowledge commoning based on the software that MediaWiki developed. So we've thought of emulating this. And if you go to our website, which is communitiesforfuture.org, there is a way to enter our own Communities for Future wiki. And it is designed slightly differently, but the principles of that lie behind this wiki are the same like on Wikipedia, which makes it like easy to orientate yourself to find your way through it. So we are developing it in line with some other, like let's say we have another project I see that we have here Duncan, who is working on this other wiki, which is Urban Arena. So you can see another design using basically the same software. And what we are trying to achieve is to get you or other participants, other contributors to add content around the central topic of community-led action on climate change and sustainability. We are trying to focus on the point of community-led and to see then to show that even the knowledge around community-led action can be community-led. So we are arranging and designing our databases, our knowledge bases. So just to give you an example, we have, let's say, so the layout now is designed in a way that what's happening in different countries on the right side. So we have all the European countries here to the right. And on the left side, we have topics or areas. So in some cases, For example, with eco-villages, if you press on the topic, you will enter a page, which is work in progress. You can read about it. And we have some topics which haven't been touched yet. For example, energy. There is a category which doesn't have any page. And just to give you an example how easy it is, you just click here on create this page. You will get a pop-up window, and you can start typing community-led energy is tick, 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 tick. And you can put, for example, like a link to some other subtopic, let's say comets, because I've seen that there are some people from comets here. And when I save the page, it's here. There is the beginning of the text. And later on, when you are familiar with the thing, then you can just edit or edit the source to add more content. So you will have this window opened again and have more content added. And this page about comets, if you click on it, you will get, again, a new page to which you can add content. I'm not going into it deeply technically because we'll have more meetings about it. I'm just giving you an example, just a taste of how easy actually it is to work with Wiki. It takes a little time, but it's really not such a big issue. And on the main page, we have included, so there is a user guide, and it explains how to work with our wiki. You can check it out. And since we have a short presentation here only, I'm just going to show again another resource that's connected very closely to our wiki, which is Zotero Library. Some of you are probably familiar with it. It's a way of organizing different journal articles, books, and other resources connected to your work. And at the moment, we have 1,520 items in our library. And we would be very happy to see you contribute more of these articles, of your articles and other contributions to this library in connection with community-led action on climate change and sustainability. In order to facilitate the work, we have created other easier ways of contribution. So if you have any kind of articles, you can send them to me or add them to a Google Drive folder, which we have created for that purpose. And we are very happy to hear any suggestions from you in the ways to facilitate and to make this work easier for your contributions. And I'm gonna stop sharing. Do I have anything else to share? Not really. But in the long run, you know, we can develop something like, if you don't know about Apropedia, just recently they have this announcement that like their work has been recognized, and a community-led bottom-up initiative has been like recognized and used widely in academic citations. So maybe this is something we're aiming for, to have a good resource which can be quoted and which can be brought even in policy work and make an impact in a European level, so that our knowledge is not just there for its own sake, but to serve some changes in on the European level. So I'm back with my screen, and I see a question: is the information checked? I don't even know what it means. So Iris,
maybe Iris, would you like to put on your mic and ask your question?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, for the information to be true or anything, like, so not just someone is just using or misusing the platform for just adding information, like, because you really said you want to have it really be appropriate information. So maybe is there someone who is checking all the information?
Yes, we have curators, and at the moment it's not open, so you have to register to contribute knowledge. So that's what you would need to do in order to become the contributor. In these initial phases when we are still building it up, we decided for this approach, and then in the long run it will be open with more curation available.
Yeah, and there was a that was a deliberate decision, recognizing that there's sometimes sites get abused, vandalized in various ways, but also recognizing that something important about what we're doing is building up a knowledge community. And we also realize for our criteria about the reliability of knowledge, for robustness, to make sure the claims we make are grounded in evidence, and to be really factual in what we're presenting, use for harness the power of factual information. So a bit like Wikipedia, we discourage making claims that aren't backed up by some sort of evidence, by a citation or a reference to where it's from. If it's most of the information is secondary, it's compiled from other sources, and a key function in that way is to help to guide people through the literature on community initiatives, which was one of a big issue that we found, that even though there's quite a lot of research done on community initiatives now, it's often dispersed. So there are academic literatures which are quite obscure to people who aren't academics, who aren't researchers. It's scattered across different fields, different journals, whole other bodies of knowledge generated by communities themselves, by the networks and their information gathering, or at grassroots level. So an important function of the wiki is to organise that information and the sources in categories that reflect the ways that people will use it in the context of community-led action. So there's a real emphasis on grounding in evidence, and also that at the moment there's quite informal quality control checking of sources, but that's one of the functions that we'll be seeking to broaden and diversify as we build a user community. So at the moment the curation is mostly down to Nara and me, and for quite a small number still of active contributors who are all fully aware of the criteria in terms of the content. Something we're exploring is how to broaden that in order to be able to support a larger number and wider range of contributors, while still maintaining some shared standards around the content and around it being reliable and accurate. Does that answer your question, Iris? Or is there more on that?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
So the last thing I would mention, maybe, Tom, is the status report. It's something that we are producing as well as a way of reaching out to policymakers, and also to maybe more to people who are working strategically on implementation of the practicality, like practical implementation of some approaches and practices that are present out there. You can see the link there shared by Juan. So this is a kind of different approach and translation of the same knowledge for appropriate audiences, and you can check it out and see how it's been done in 2019. And we are preparing another like reiteration of this work in 2021, and it's going to be published in September. And we're going to continue working on it, of course, in the future, to have a really good resource for like all of you, and specifically for policy purposes. And are there any questions, maybe? Yes, Tom?
If I just add on the status report, because I think it's a really useful demonstration of the power of this approach. So that Gilles initially came up with the idea of the status report, I think influenced by the
IPCC.
The IPCC reports, and thinking, well, we could really do with something like that on communities, on community-led action, something that gathers the state-of-the-art of knowledge and that communicates it far and wide. Then when we started thinking about that in terms of knowledge commons, well, we thought at the same time, we don't need to just gather all that information produce a report and then leave it there. If we use these methods, we can constantly be harvesting all that research effort. We can compile it on the wiki, which is then a form which can be built on directly. It can be used for other purposes. It can be shared widely and invite co-creation. So really in this second edition of the status report, we're experimenting more deeply with that way of doing things and linking it very closely with the growing of this knowledge co-creation community around it. I think we've got time if anybody else has any questions, any clarification. And there's an interesting point that Maya raised about the way we constrain the limits we put on what's appropriate content that we're regulating. I know, Maya, would you like to speak up more on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tom. No, I just wanted to add that, like, most of the sharing platforms are built on mutual trust. So I think that we cannot expect that everyone will follow the rules or the prescriptions, but we just have to trust the members who are at the end on this online community. There is something we can do before they become members of knowledge community, but yeah, in my experience is that also, I don't know, with seed exchange, you never know what seat you will get when you exchange the seats, and you have to trust the other one who is exchanging the seats with you. So this is what I wanted to add.
Lovely, thank you, Matt. So,
yeah, can I add also something?
Andre?
Yeah, I was just chatting here with a colleague about education, and it reminded me on the first inquiry that you did in the beginning, seeing that we are, some of us, researchers, other practitioners. And after reading the pattern language that Tom wrote on the Ecolese wiki, I wanted to share with you that the patterns that we want to harvest and collect on knowledge are basically useful for very different kinds of people, but also coming from very different types of knowledge and users of knowledge. And so ones are researchers and others are practitioners. So what do practitioners want to learn, and what do researchers also want to learn? But also, what do educators want to learn, and what do politicians want to learn? So we want to get knowledge from these different perspectives and then use it for these different perspectives. And so my question to you in a little bit is, what do we want for these different roles, and what we, coming from different roles, want to learn and collect in terms and share in terms of knowledge, if I make myself clear. It was just a little bit of improvisation on the topic. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks, Andre. And I'll just maybe, as we've got a bit of time, explain that term pattern language that I heard you used there. It was in my presentation, but I didn't go into it. But that's a medium that is very widely used in permaculture, transition eco-villages, lots of other Ecolese member networks, and that we've adopted as part of the background design thinking in the knowledge commons. And it's this comes from this radically participatory architecture developed by a guy called Christopher Alexander and colleagues in the 1970s, and they realized that most of the beautiful, architecturally inspiring places that they went to hadn't been designed by architects. And they started to think, well, rather than architects designing something and expecting people to live in it, why not have this co-creative methodology where everybody who lives in and uses a place brings their own knowledge, their own understanding, their own needs to the design. So that's it's a very versatile medium that's about exactly what Andre said, bringing together different types of knowledge in ways that can be applied for many purposes and in many different fields. So it's one of the methodologies and techniques we're using to make this whole medium and process inclusive and fit lots of different interests. I don't know, Nara, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, it's just to return, I like to return the ball, because Andre is bringing up this diverse approach. So to make it fitting from the perspective of contributions and also from the perspective of consumers, it's a way of good ideas from the perspective of collaborative design means also like if you have a good idea, if you can develop it a bit further, and I'd be very happy to pick it up from there, because I really love your idea of having these this way of design and then presentation through the how to say, because we need different languages, we need different approaches, we need different textures of the research and of the knowledge. So that's something where we don't have all the answers, of course, and when you come with a good idea. So this is an invitation to everybody who is here. We haven't designed it fully. It's a way of saying, please, you know, you're invited, you're welcome to come up with good ideas in terms of design and in terms of content, and to put it, yeah, to bring it to us, and also to be brave and to contribute. I hope, Andre, it's a fair answer, is it?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, so my vision is that in a way we have to be able to organize knowledge in different from different perspectives. As an educator, I have different things I want to learn from and I want to share as I'm learning to educate, but I also want to get different knowledge from the field, from the practitioners, from the researchers on the sector of energy or the sector of agriculture. So what I want to learn and share and continuously build in terms of knowledge is different as if I'm an educator, or if I'm a researcher, or if I'm a practitioner trying to do this in my community, or if I'm, for example, in Ecolese trying to do lobby for community work. So my point a little bit is that we should find a way to organize these different needs in our Communities for Future Collaborate platform and in other ways, so we can harvest the knowledge that we need and the knowledge that is out there. So in a way, I think it's good to have today here researchers and practitioners, but we also have educators, and I think maybe we also have policymakers and so on, so they can tell us what they need, and together they also can share what they're learning, and we in a way can organize knowledge in these different perspectives so that it grows beyond projects, beyond this year-to-year deadlines that we have been all working on all our lives, and grows on like Wikipedia, as you showed.
Okay, Andre, I think we can take it also a little bit as a starting point for the breakout groups. Maybe you can develop it further in a conversation with a few people in your group, and others, if you feel invited or if you feel that this is relevant for you as well, you can also use it and take it forward in breakout groups. If there are any other burning questions or any, because I really agree with your point, Andre. I think it's necessary to have these different approaches connected and brought together, and so that's what we need to pay attention to for sure.
Can I just add something?
Yes, Maya.
I think it's not so much about approach, but more about translating. And I don't mean translating into another language, but yeah, translating in a sense of translating in another language. But for example, if we read, I don't know, a research article and there is the terminology I don't understand, then I would need like this article translated in a language that I would understand, or maybe, I don't know, solve this with some kind of glossary that actually a wiki can also be. So I think that this is the most in my opinion, the most important part, to do this translation in different kind of languages for the users.
Thank you, Maya. I think that Gilles had something, if I understood. Gilles?
Just very shortly, hi everybody. Just to say that one of the things the wiki can support, it's not only to bring information that it's published dispersely, let's say, and we integrate and also learn from what other researchers are doing and put it in a language it's easygoing for most people. But also when local initiatives are wanting to apply for funds, this is also the place probably where they can go and contextualize the movement or their own type of initiatives or even their country. So it's something that it benefits for everybody, whether you're a researcher, educator, practitioner, policymaker, and the needs and the usage can really support each other. So if you digest some information for an application, you can come also and complement information on your country, on the initiative. If you're a researcher doing a master thesis on something, then you probably can use this, or even if you didn't use the wiki, you can go and put there because you have a research question that really, or even on your introduction, you really do a really good summary of some components that community-led initiatives also tackle. And if you're an educator, probably you do a nice infographic of that information for a slide, but that information can also go into that webpage. So it's really about how to take advantage of and nurture this process.
Thank you, Gilles. I think we'll have a lot of time after the break, in the second part in our breakout groups to take it forward. And so this was like a brief introduction and a little bit of a conversation about it. And from here, we would like to ask you to to give us a feedback. Did it bring you clarity? Are you completely lost, and so on? So Paulina and Juan, can you take it from here maybe, or no?
Okay. I take it from here then. So I'm gonna just share another poll, okay? We just want to, as Nara was sharing, to have a little bit of feedback from you. If you understood what we explained, etc. You will see it's something very, very easy, but it will give us a quick feedback to all of us. So you can see here the results. So, well, we have quite a lot of diversity, but most of the people got the picture, but still is a bit fuzzy, okay? And they will need a bit of guidance. 39% have a lot of clarity, and they are super motivated. That's great. And 28% thinks that it makes sense, but they don't see themselves as part of it. So I think this is a very good result. Any observation, any comment from Tom, from Nara?
Well, just thank you for your feedback. And this is just a little bit of for us to understand how we did, and also to see your, how to say, the type of participants who are here. And we understood, of course, that some of you will be here more like observing and checking at what we are doing. So thank you for that.
And I guess now we go to the breakout groups, isn't it? Like to explain before we go to the break, explain how it works.
Exactly. So I guess I can take it from explaining about breakout groups. So in order for you to get a feel of how our work proceeds, of what type of areas we are dealing with, we have decided to have a few groups where you can get to know each other a little bit better. You can ask questions a bit more closely, and you can get in touch with one of the facilitators from our circles. And you can, as you can see here in chat, We will have 6 breakout groups, maybe 5. We have put rural development as a provisional optional group, but in case we have really interest, we will of course make that group as well. So you will be taken, you will get a chance to introduce yourselves a little bit better to a few people in the circle, to have a conversation about your work. You will get a chance to hear about these topics of policy, community energy, eco-villages, municipalities. So it's community. Maya's already saying, yeah, we want rural development, great. So municipalities in connection with community-led action, and community climate action as a as a topic on its own, and rural development. So we would ask you to put a number in chat of which group you prefer to be in. And if you are undecided, it's also okay. Then you will be assigned to a group. And
sorry to interrupt, Jonara, but can we do it instead of the chat, because the chat is going to be very difficult for me? If they can put it in the name, just when you name yourself, like just before your name, if you can put a number there, like 1, 2, that would be much easier for me.
So now we would invite the hosts of each group to bring back to the whole group 1 or 2 aha moments, or something really exciting that was expressed, something surprising that was expressed, something out of the ordinary that you noticed. We would start from the first, or actually it's a second group probably, because we didn't have the first one. So I would ask the host of the second group to...
So the second group is me.
Oh,
so
yes.
Hello everyone. So it has been a very interesting conversation. Actually, we took it in Portuguese, as almost everybody spoke Portuguese, even though only 2 people were Portuguese. It's very nice that Portuguese is coming back as one of the most spoken languages of the world. Anyway, getting to the point, it was very interesting because basically the most interesting things to me was that we discussed, our topic was energy, and one of the things that came up was that we would like the common, the knowledge common to show and support practice, basically showing the different ways that energy can be used in communities, the different models that have to do with regulation frameworks, but also in terms of technologies and its use. Then we also found it interesting to discuss the trade-offs of energy efficiency and the social impacts of different technologies. So there's also an interest, some research and political interests of discussion. But as a whole, this means to me that we wanted to be very concrete and focused. The motivation in the end was 7 out of 10. And the conditions that people wanted to contribute were 2. 1, very interesting, coaching. So one of the persons in our room said that coaching, so namely in supporting and writing wiki and things like this, would be very beneficial, maybe on a frequent basis of meetings with the coach. And the second condition that I also think is very relevant is being able to build knowledge on the theme of your choice. In this case, specifically, it was self-sufficiency. So it was actually not energy, the topic. It was a very specific and very interesting topic. So I think these are 2 interesting conditions. And the third, of course, is time. But this one is common to all. So I think that's it. I pass on to the next group.
Great, so we can move then to number 3, which was us, the Eco-Village group. And since Anne-Catherine has left, I will be presenting. So we've had very interesting session. We were only 4 people, and there were just a second. I just want to go to the slide. Yes. So there was, for me, the most important thing that I would point out was what Iris was saying, that there's many third ideas, there's so many webinars, so many things happening, and they're not. Am I there? Okay, sorry. I just heard a voice in the background. I thought somebody was objecting from not hearing me or something like that. So that things are very scattered, and it's very difficult to find all the information about everything that's going on. And the suggestion was that our database, our frameworks could represent this to give it a good overview, to give a good like one place. And another topic was the language barrier, because in our work, of course, we have a lot of knowledge in different languages. And now in our database, we are focusing on English. And the question was how to represent all this knowledge in different languages on our platforms. So I move on from here to group number 4. So who would present?
Yeah, thank you. So the group municipalities was also a really nice, interesting discussion. I would like to highlight that this thing about the languages for the different disciplines and the researchers, practitioners, policymakers, so on and so forth. We talked a bit about the need for that, but also at the same time that everybody that we're talking about are people and humans with roles. So also this thing about the effort of targeting information or not, and the benefits, we had a bit of that. Also, it was shared, although mainly through chat, about the lack of the vision, a collective vision at the municipality, and the different groups, and how to be able to integrate these different visions, and a lot could be said about that as well. And then I'd like to say about some of the motivation. We got also different numbers, but the lowest ones, we got a 4, a 5, and a 6, but the 4 and the 5 are very into about being user-friendly, and then the people that also gave the lower numbers, they still don't know how to interact and contribute. So it's mainly about an inner process that probably needs a bit more clarity of why they are connecting to the framework. But also another thing that it was said is about how to have a process to link between initiatives. But probably that could be also shared a bit more of how Communities for Future is promoting that. Thank you all.
Yes, okay, group 5, we spent a fair amount of time discussing the topic, but even discussing, what is the knowledge commons. And so we also gauged towards the very end the motivation, and it was split. Some people would like to, everybody would like to see it come forward, and feels that it resonates and sounds like a good idea. Some would contribute because they're more at the point of contributing to that field, and some, it probably was half and half. Some would be supporters or use the resource, but are not poised to contribute just yet. So that was the result. I'll pass on if there's another group.
Yes, okay. So our group was around rural development, and we were talking about the potential that lies within the different movements of community-led initiatives to bring regeneration to rural areas. And it was important to note that it should really be all those movements working together, because they each hold different viable solutions, and that we need to use those multi-dimensional approaches also to shift the way we look at certain behaviors or sectors. For example, we talked about the food sector and agriculture and its role in society, and currently it's really one-dimensional thinking, and this is the way to produce food and to supply the society with food. But actually it's much more than that, and agriculture should become more multidimensional and also help to protect the environment and to fulfill some educational measures included into schools, and yeah, those would be good approaches. But then the question is, how can we actually convince the farmers to make this transition? And that's where we also were talking about the relevance of having this knowledge base that can support farmers in their own reasoning of why they're doing what they're doing, and give them some arguments for practicing, for example, organic agriculture. And so yeah, the idea was also to understand which knowledge is really necessary in order to support community-led action, and in order to convince the politicians of why we need to change things, and also to get people in the general public convinced of shifting their lifestyles. Yep, that's our group. Pass it back on to whoever wants to take it on.
I guess it's me. So thank you everyone for participating and for summarizing it so succinctly. It was really awesome to hear all this. It's giving us valuable information. So I think Juan, can you just continue, or Paulina with the slides? So just to have
Paulina's going to do it.
Paulina, yeah, thank you. Just
Well, I can also say that we have a luxurious 15 minutes of time before the time that we plan to close the session. So I would be happy to invite for any last questions if anyone wants to ask something from Tom, from Nara, or from any of the other people who are present here today. Would be a great chance to explore some of the things that came up in the groups or before. So,
my opinion is that we can give an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like as a reward to like wrap it up sooner. We don't need to to extend it further than so we've done it. So we don't need to have extra time, sure. I guess.
I just have one question. Do we have the contacts of everybody that is in here today, so that we can follow up and invite them to participate in the wiki, etc.?
So we'll get to that. Okay, that's exactly what's coming up.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you, Nara, that there's no need to stretch it if there are no questions, but just happy to open the space. I think Jill wants to say something.
Yeah, just to do people know what's ongoing that they can connect easily, or that will be shared on the email to everybody? Like the status report is being done. However, the other things are ongoing projects that people can connect with because it's on their expertise area or country or whatever, so they can, or even, for example, the strategy of Echolisa to support initiatives to go for the CLLDs type of funding. How do people connect to these topics that are ongoing? And in some of them, it would be nice to support people and involve them.
Yeah, well, maybe it's time for us to explain the plan going forward. Well, just to this, we see this session as the design that we presented, the architecture. It's the product of quite a small number of people's work who've attempted to interpret and act upon the wider needs of this network, starting with Echolisa and then a bigger picture that's emerged for communities for future. So what we want to do now is to open up that process and really invite a broader range of people. So those who think this is something that you're ready to help shape in some way to contribute to, whether that's in a particular area, a theme you're passionate about or interested in, you want to share your knowledge, co-create, bring in other people's knowledge, be part of shaping how we explore a particular area or theme that interests you, or if you've got this higher level interest in terms of understanding the medium, shaping the architecture of the knowledge commons, to see how we create a context where all these different types of knowledge and ideas can shape. So this is the start of an open process. We've set a date already 2 weeks from today, when we'll host a follow-up meeting which gets further into the design, to start to invite everybody who wants to be part of that to come along, to explore and share ideas and develop a process which will allow there to be a broader group of people collaborating on this going forward. So we'll send out information. I think we do have the contacts from people who registered, I believe. And we have a form following the link on the slides. There's a form set up which you can register your interest, not just about the Knowledge Commons, but also in the Learn domain as a whole.
And does anyone want to add any last words from the hosts? Or is it time for goodbyes?
Grande abraço. Até breve.
I guess it's time for goodbye. Maybe
Yeah.
Bye.
We can open our mics and say goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Adeus a todos.
Bye.
Um abraço.
Big hug for all of you.
Bye.